Hello and welcome to Business Television India. I'm Siddharth Zarabi and you're watching our special series GST at 1. It's been a year since the Narendra Modi government rolled out the goods and services tax on the 1st of July 2017. This after 10 years of discussions to build a consensus to roll out what was billed as a good and simple tax. 1 year down the line, we are sitting down with tax experts, industry captains, government officials among others to analyze the triumphs and the pitfalls of this tax. Joining me today is Shekhar Bajaj, Chairman and Managing Director of Bajaj Electricals. Welcome to BTVI, Mr. Bajaj. Let me begin by asking you, how has the journey been for your sector, for your company, post the implementation of the GST in the last 12 months?
Personally, I think as a company, we are extremely happy that the GST has been introduced. It is something which was waited for a long period. There's always had a few months of little confusion, little implementation issues, but now for the last few months it's absolutely having no issues at all. We are working very smoothly, and we are thinking that there will be a substantial growth in our total turnover that will take place, because one other thing which is happening is that we've got a very strong distribution network, and I think in our field, in small appliances, fans, I think our distribution network is the best in the country, and therefore I don't think we are now covered almost 500 districts through our distribution network, and most of the other competitors may be covering 200 to 300 districts. So the other 200 districts that we are covering, because of GST, the small unorganized players are getting impacted because they cannot compete with us, because we are giving the type of service that we can give of after sales service, or in terms of distribution that we can offer, is something which for an unorganized sector would be very difficult. And there, luckily, from a competition point of view, the competitors are not there, so we get a very good opportunity to grow in those markets. 200 to 300 of those districts which are really much interior is where we will substantially benefit because of GST. Also, the major issue also is coming is that we had so many branches and so many godowns because of the CST. Because of CST, we had to have separate state, separate godowns, separate offices. Now it is all got to do with logistics, so therefore we don't need to have so many offices. So all those things are going to make it life easier. Also from transportation, there was octroi and other state levies which was delaying supplies. So here, from a supply chain point of view, also has become much more smooth and better.
A significant part of your products, from what we understand, were in the 28%, the highest rate slab at the time of the introduction of the tax. Later on, there was a correction of sorts. Many of these items were brought down to the lower 18% slab. What has been the net benefit of that rationalization and change to the tax rate?
See, as far as we are concerned, as soon as the 10% reduction from 28 to 18 was done for lighting and fans, immediately that 10% was passed on to the consumer straight. We did not even calculate that there will be some other impacts, which many competitors did not reduce by 10%, they reduced by 6-7%, or we reduced the full 10%, and then we said, let that do, and let's do the calculation, see if we can avoid increasing in price and let the benefit go to the customer. That was the whole idea that the government did by reducing the GST. One thing which we are still a little, I would say, disturbed, you can use the word, or unhappy, and is that why is the small appliances still at 28%, which is the sin rate? That is what has been the government stand. So I am hoping that the GST Council will soon bring it down to 18%, as it is. Finance Minister has said many times that there will be only basically two rates, and 18% will be the normal rate, and there will be very few products which will be higher than 18%. And small appliances, iron, toasters, mixers, for no reason can be considered sin products. So that is the only area in GST where the GST rates that have been given to us are in small appliances. Does not make sense to me.
Many of your products pre-GST essentially were, almost like 26% tax if you take into account the pre-GST taxes like excise, VAT and other levies. What is the net tax liability for your company post the implementation of the GST?
No, our thing is very simple. We determine our price before tax, and therefore when the GST came in, it was 28% and became 18%, we passed it on. Again, in appliances, in this 17th meeting, if the GST Council decides to reduce it from 28% to 18%, that 10% will be straight away passed on to the customer. So we are looking at our realization on the basis of our costing and everything to determine our margins. The tax is something which goes up, we increase the price. If it goes down, we'll pass it on. So it's not something where we try to profiteer or profit out of the tax saving, or tax is not our way of looking at things. Also, it's a very price sensitive product. The small appliances are used by the middle class and lower middle class, and therefore a 10% reduction in the costing can substantially boost up the demand, and therefore though they lose out in terms of the tax collection because of the GST reduction, but because of the volume going up, you are giving employment to a lot of small scale industries, and also because of the higher volumes there will be a higher GST collection. So there will be certain losses, but certain amount will be made up because of the quantity growth that will take place because of the GST reduction that we are hoping that will take place on 17th of July.
Right. Since you speak about costs, I want to ask you, GST not only changed the output price dynamics, but also had a clear impact as far as input prices are concerned. What's the cost impact been for you?
See, the GST, if we do a good analysis and good working, what we have found that is why, though earlier it was 25% and because of the GST it became 28%, so 2-3% was our cost increase, but by going to our vendor, sub-vendors, sub-vendors, everywhere we said you are getting a credit, so therefore to that extent you pass on the cost to benefit to us, and therefore we could absorb that and not needed to have a price increase during that time. The price increase which is taking place subsequently is because of the material, the commodity prices have substantially gone up, whether it's plastics or copper or aluminum or steel. That's a different matter. That's a dynamic situation on the basis of pricing. Like now oil prices are coming down, so let's hope the commodity prices will also come down, and therefore that's a dynamic thing which takes place on a regular basis.
Right. One quick point just to understand, what's the outlook on product pricing?
There are two different feedbacks which we are getting. One is saying that normally in the monsoons time the demand is lower, and therefore the commodity prices normally in July, August, September come down. Then there are other team who are talking, who understand, they say because of the oil pricing and the commodity prices has gone up, this year there may not be a much reduction in terms of commodity. That means our purchase prices will not come down, and therefore whatever you need to cover, because there are many orders suppose we've taken where we've got at a fixed price, so you must cover yourself and not wait for a price reduction. This oil price reduction, which is there from a level of $80 has come down to $74, $73, that and commodity price will take time for it to settle down and pass on to the customer. So at least next couple of months don't see any commodity price reduction.
Right. I want to move on to another aspect, and this is something that you just had touched upon. This is the impact on the unorganized sector players. In the second year of GST, what do you expect? Do you expect to sort of grab more market share from the unorganized sector, or will it be able to hold on?
Personally, I think there will be the unorganized sector market share will go down, because many of them have been dealing by avoiding taxes and other things with GST coming in, and if they do not pay their taxes properly, then to that extent the set off and the credit which is being available to a trader or to a manufacturer will not be available to them. So to that extent, there's no benefit that they were getting by evading those tax unless you go end to end. So there will be a certain amount, and then everything has to be properly accounted for in the GST regime. And that is the whole idea where the Prime Minister had said that we want to reduce the black money impact, we want to have more transparency. So I think there will be more transparency. Those who are people, unorganized sector, who give good quality product and are able to follow all the rules, they will survive. But those who have been trying to cut corners and just work on the basis of saving of taxes and trying to evade taxes will slowly get wiped out. That's what I expect.
We were going through some of the earlier commentary where you had spoken about doubling your retail outlet to almost over 1,60,000. What's the update on that?
Yes, we have already crossed the 1,60,000 outlets. When we started our distribution, we thought we got very high distribution, but when we actually mapped it out, we realized that about 2 years back, we had our distribution was relatively weak. Though we may be considered market leaders in appliances, still the whole game was wholesaling, and wholesaler would normally give it to the big retailers and not be bothered about small retailers. And therefore, because of our distribution that is taking care of small retailers, that is where we will be gaining a substantial market share. And we are hoping by end of this year, that means by March 2019, we should be having over 200,000 outlets through whom we will be servicing on a weekly basis. These 200,000 people, we've got about almost 2,000 salespeople who are going to cover these people on a weekly basis. And therefore, that is something which was something which when we started, people were disbelieving that how can a small appliance or a fan or a lighting product, how can they go through the distribution channel? That was a FMCG model which is there. But we thought that the retailer is very important, and for him, if we can give them good service and go to their place and offer the products, they instead of them having to buy through wholesaler, they'll be much happier to deal with us. And that's what is happening. A lot of our retailers are finding it more convenient, and therefore they are slowly shifting more towards us compared to our competitors.
I'm going to thank you for sparing your time with us here today on this edition of GST at 1 on BTVI. If you've been, thank you very much for watching.